On today's show, the San Diego Padres very thankfully salvaged the last game in a 3-game set against the Cardinals thanks to one Sir Cotton-Eye Joe Musgrove, as well as Kyle Higashioka having a fantastic game, being the difference maker. All that and much more. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, April 4th. There we go. May the April 4th be with you, am I right? As always, I'm your host, sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You might be familiar with my baseball-related work over at Just Baseball, where I write about not just the Padres, but general baseball stuff as well. And I also host a podcast there called Baseball versus the World. If you want more of a fun-filled podcast show about all the other fun things about baseball culture instead of the hard-boiled data and just on a specific team, you go check that out. Of course, at Twitter, at Javapeno, you know, at @LO_Padres, Locked On Padres on YouTube, you know what it is. And today's episode, you know what it is, because we are talking about a Padres victory. It feels like it's been a year. It's been 27 years since the Padres got a win. That's what it felt like anyway. And if you're wondering, by the way, why I have headphones on my neck, I don't know. They're strangely comforting. I don't know how to explain it. So we're going to be breaking that down, starting with Joe Musgrove having a great start, and then also getting into, you know, Eguy Rosario and some of the weird stuff at third base, some lineup questions I think that people may have, and of course praising one Sir Kyle Higashioka, who basically is the hero of this game. But before we get into that, I must first say, everybody, today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. But you know what's not only available to U.S. customers? A Padres W, ladies and gentlemen. And it becomes the Joe Musgrove first great start game, basically. Like, this is a really great start for him. 6 innings, only 1 earned run on 5 hits, 7 Ks. I thought he looked great. I really do. I thought he looked great. And let me just throw this out there, that I had talked about how I was really looking forward to this start, why I was really curious about it, because he had shown some bad signs lately. You know, there wasn't anything on the peripherals, there wasn't anything on the deeper stats, but I don't know everything, right? And certainly scrolling through FanGraphs a little bit, especially at the exterior stuff, isn't going to tell me everything. But he had a pretty rough spring training, then he had a bad start against the Dodgers, and then a bad start against the Giants. So it was worth being like, oh, okay, this is a little odd, like this is worth keying into. But also notice that he wasn't, and I talked about this yesterday, on my 2 overreactions, right? Like he wasn't on my overreaction take of the season, and the 2 that I've had so far is that I'm a little bit worried about Bogarts and Michael King. But other than that, this is why he wasn't fully on my concern list. He was just on my little notice. I'm like, huh, that's weird. But of course, Java Joe comes through right when you need him. You don't want to get swept by the Cardinals, especially at home and before the day off. Like I said, 6 innings, the 7 Ks were great, and they were impressive strikeouts, really fooling hitters on this one. And this isn't like some schmub like Oakland A's, you know, sort of team, Cleveland Guardians, like really porous offense. Like, this was good stuff from Joe Musgrove. In fact, he didn't give up, aside from 1 hit from Wilson Contreras, who basically kind of killed the Padres this series. Aside from 1 hit by Wilson Contreras that went for a double in the 4th inning, which was the hardest hit ball of the entire game, he didn't allow anything that was really all that hardly hit, right? Like, he was actually pretty good in this game. The only thing that comes somewhat close was Ivan Herrera getting a single in the 5th inning, right? Like, but other than that, that's basically it. Like, did not give up a lot of hard contact in this one, and I think that was key. And that's what he always does, right? This is a guy that isn't necessarily a super strikeout dude. He's an off-speed guy. He's throwing your curves. He's throwing sliders. He's throwing everything, right? And I think that this was just a really cool, like, welcome back Joe Musgrove, dare I say, kind of start. Generated a few whiffs on his fastball, which I also like to see, especially since that's not his greatest pitch. 6 whiffs on 12 swings. Very, very nice. He just looked better. He looked focused. He just looked more on than I think he had been for a little bit. And especially since it was kind of like the first Joe Musgrove good start in quite some time, I think, for a lot of people. So that was really cool to see him show up. And they needed it because the Padres didn't score a whole lot in this game. It actually comes from, as has been the trend of late, from unexpected places. It actually comes in the bottom of the first inning with a bases loaded walk to Jerickson Profar, which is really cool. I can't explain it. And also, Jerickson Profar in this game goes 1 for 3 with a double, right? He does get a double and gets the RBI. He also draws a walk in this one, like I just mentioned, with the bases loaded. Like, he's been okay. I've seen some people say Profar belongs on the bench. And don't get me wrong, in theory, when your team is all sorted out, he's much better, I think, as a bench player and not a starting player on a team that's hoping to win a World Series. But he's been good so far, so I'm not mad at that, right? Like, instead, it's mostly been kind of the big name players, your Xander Bogarts, your Manny Machado especially, who has one of the lowest batting averages of anyone on the team outside Kyle Higashioka, who we'll get into in a second, batting just 200 on the season. I talked before the season about Manny a little bit, that out of all the guys, he was the one that I was a little bit less convinced would bounce back. Don't get me wrong. Like I did say that I thought that I knew Tatis would be good, and I was really confident that Xander Bogarts would, but Machado's looked a little bit like it. I think it'll get there. He had a couple hard hit balls in this one. He's had a couple hard hit balls actually overall as of late. He's done pretty decent on that, but even still, he needs to be better, and I think he knows that. Everyone knows that. Just not the best stuff from him. You know what I mean? It feels like he's pressing for the home run a little bit. At least in my opinion. That's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from him, but we'll have to see as that transpires. But again, really good stuff overall from the Padres, but the offense, like I said, a walk from Ha-Seong Kim and then a strikeout by Eguy Rosario, unfortunately ends it. Tatis, fielder's choice, allowing Xander Bogaerts to score. Or I'm sorry, allowing Jose Zocar to score. Thank the Lord. It was actually funny because when I was watching it, my mom was in the room. She was in the same room as me when this inning was on. It was first and third. You know, you get those two guys at the bottom of the order on base, which is a great start. And then I was like, but this is peak Padres, right? We're going to get a double play ball on this one. And guess what happens? A double play ball is hit by Tatis. Don't get me wrong, Tatis has been good. I'm not trying to call him out, but just the in general vibe of this Padres team, it can't just be me. Is it hangover from last year? Yes. Is it supported necessarily by this year? Yeah, kind of a little bit. That's been the vibe of this team a little bit so far, where you should not be a team where Xander Bogaerts, Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth, Kim, like, is not nearly that scary. It just feels like a mild inconvenience. So that was unfortunate, but thankfully Tatis is fast, so he was able to beat out the throw, allowing a run to score. And then Nolan Arenado actually gets an RBI in this game. Thankfully, he hits into a double play later. Arenado is not that this is relevant to Padres folk, but I'd be a little bit worried about him if I were you. And then Kyle Higashioka hitting a home run in this game ends up being essentially the go-ahead run. Not the go-ahead run, but the winning run, I should say, making a 3-1 score. And then in the top of the 8th, Wandy Peralta gets a little ridiculous, hitting 2 batters, and then they are able to bring in 1. But thankfully, that was it. Suarez shuts the door, even though it got real scary at the end there as he walked 2 batters, but he did strike out 2. So overall, good victory for the Padres, but there's more where that came from. We got more to talk about. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that happened in just a second, guys. But before we do that, I want to take a second to talk to you about our good friends from eBay Motors, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about them at the top of the pod. You know what I mean? It's what I do. It's what I do. And your MVP, your vehicle, passion, drive, patience, it is what you need for championships. And I bet you your vehicle has that. Oh, it doesn't? Well, if it doesn't, you need to go check out eBay Motors, ladies and gentlemen. It's everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, man. You can't be burning the cash, especially in this economy. They're here to help you out. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, also only available to U.S. customers. Go check it out. Oh, but folks, we're not done just yet. No. I got to give you another detailed view into the world, ladies and gentlemen. And this one is Gametime. And look, I may or may not have used this recently. Folks, I may or may not be going to Yankee game soon. Maybe. Or maybe it's a Yankee game later against a certain team that I cover on this show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. But with Game Time, here's the thing. Buying tickets, it can be a little bit of a hassle. I think we all know this. And what I love about Game Time is they've got all sorts of deals, including deals that get better closer to the time. So say you're really busy and you don't know like if you're going to be available that night and whatnot. Well, Game Time's a good app for you to go check out and get flash deal prices on all sorts of things, right? That's what they do with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest prices. Guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They've got flash deals that happen like at all the times, zone deals, so like a certain zone of a stadium or anything like that. You can view the seats from the stadium like I mentioned. And it's not just MLB. It's not just sports. It's comedy, theater. It's all sorts of stuff. So concerts, maybe you want to go check out I'm assuming, I've been seeing Beyonce in the news a lot lately, so I assume she's got a big album thing that's blowing up right now. So I imagine she'll be on tour soon. Well, Game Time can help you out probably. So go check that out. Save up to 60% buying off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, take the guesswork out of buying. I already said that, but I'm going to say it again. Take the guesswork out. You don't want to do that. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH, exactly how you imagine it spelled. FIRSTPATCH for $20 off from March 29th to April 14th only. So get in there while you can, folks. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed with Game Time. And we're back, just like that, ladies and gentlemen, on the Locked On Padres podcast. Did that quick game breakdown, quick recap. That's maybe what I should do. Like the quick recap, the starting pitcher breakdown. And it was a nice one. I'm just so happy. This is now the second best starting. I don't know, actually. Was that the best overall starting pitcher performance of the year by the Padres? Might have been. I mean, Darvish has been the overall best starter. Granted, he's gone twice. But even still, like, that's probably been the best start by a Padres starting pitcher. Probably all year. Now, granted, all year doesn't mean much because we're only like a week into the season. But still, stick with me. You get my point. In terms of some other reactions from this game, there were two poor throws from Xander Bogarts while turning double plays in this one. And I think that's worth talking about for a second really quickly. First of all, Cronenworth makes an awesome play on the first one that prevents it from being potentially a blown double play, so shouts to Cronenworth. And then the second one gets by him. I didn't see if they actually gave Bogarts the error, by the way. I'm going to check that right now. I couldn't see that on the app that I use to check all those things. Let me see here. No, it's not telling me anything, folks. What can I say? It's not saying anything. Error. Why doesn't it? Oh, hold up, folks. We're going to find it. But, what's it called? Yes, it was called an error, Xander Bogarts. Thank God, because I hate it sometimes when they give the error to the player who it's just not his fault. I know, and what's funny is that it's usually them giving errors to like the shortstop infielder rather than the first baseman who couldn't scoop it or whatever. And it's like, hey, they're rushing over to get the ball and try and throw it. The fact that they made it a play in the first place, just not to go on a tangent about why errors are not the ultimate be-all and end-all stat for defensive statistics, because the fact you got to the ball in the first place means a lot. Even if you sail the ball, it's like, well, you tried, for lack of a better term. But two bad throws there. I just want to point it out only because, one, it is a new position for Bogarts, so that's worth bringing up. That, like, I did say before the season, it wouldn't shock me if, like, Xander Bogarts was the best defensive player at second baseman. Like, it wouldn't shock me. I don't think that'll happen. I think that there's better players out there. Nico Horner, for example, like, is the first one that comes to mind. Frankly, Jake Cronenworth is a better second baseman, but I think that he can excel there. But two bad throws kind of doesn't help my point, especially from the preseason. Hey, look, it adds on to the fact that Xander Bogarts has been worrying me in the early going. Not the best hard hit rate, not the best launch angle stuff, right? Like, he does not have he hasn't been coming through yet, and he still doesn't have an extra base hit. Another game without an extra base hit from Xander Bogarts. A little bit relying too much on the BABIP gods. 2 for 4 in this one, and he does score a run, and he does steal a base. So he's at least been productive, but still, they need a little bit more from him, especially since they, signed him to that big deal. So we'll see how that pans out. But, yeah, so stuff from Xander Bogarts there. And again, I do think that with his arm strength not being the biggest thing that he's known for, I do think second he can excel. But maybe this was a reminder that it might take time. He's not going to just excel at it immediately. Not everyone can be Mookie Betts. You know what I mean? Not everyone can be Mookie Betts and just be a super freak athlete that could probably play pitcher and catcher at the same time if they wanted him to. Dang it, Dodgers, and more importantly, dang you, Red Sox. More takeaways, though, from this game. Eguy Rosario, you got to be better. And I've been defending it. Don't get me wrong, I still stand by. I do think it is dumb that Tyler Wade, while he has been playing well, so it's not like I don't hate that he's playing because he's playing poorly, but I hate that he's playing because I just think that you've got some young, unproven talent that deserves some reps. Eguy Rosario has been in the minors since like 2018. Like, I think he deserves a little bit more of a shot. I really do. And I think that Tyler Wade just, again, I've already said this, he's never had a WRC plus above 100, right? And I don't even think he has like the best splits in the world either. It's not like this guy's known for hitting like one side of the plate or anything like that. So I just don't get it. Like, I just don't. Versus lefties career-wise, he's hitting 198 versus righties 226. Like, there's just nothing all that impressive here. And that's why I don't understand why he keeps getting so much playing time. But that being said, he has been good in the early going. So as a result, that means, because of what I've talked about a lot and how we basically are having almost a tryout period for that third base position, is that you got to capitalize on your few opportunities. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality here. And in fairness to my frustration with Tyler Wade getting more starts over Grant Pauley and Eguy Rosario, is that Eguy Rosario doesn't hit against righties well. In terms of his career numbers in the majors, they're not good. He's hitting 152 against righties and 389 against lefties, so he's killing lefties. Granted, a bit of a small sample size. He's only had 18 at-bats versus lefties, 33 against righties for his career. But even in the minor leagues, it's the difference of, I think it was the 2019 season, the difference of like a lot of points, like a 775 OPS versus a 900 OPS. So this is his thing, is he's going to hit against lefties. And that's fine. But again, I still would like to try him out there a little bit more often. Don't get me wrong. Maybe put Graham Pauley, who's hit against both righties and lefties nearly identically, like 900 plus OPS for both. And you put him against righties and then put Eguy Rosario against lefties. I would prefer to do that. But hey, I guess they're going to ride the hot hand at first. But my other issue is like, well, Tyler Wade has a hot hand because you gave him starts in the first place. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But in fairness, I was very critical last year of Luis Campusano not getting enough time. And it's not like he's a big splits platoon guy or anything like that. And instead you were blocking with Osanola. In fairness to Eguy, with the platoon splits, and he has not performed. He does get a double in this game, don't get me wrong, so he wasn't totally like inept or anything like that. 1 for 3, but he has 2 crucial strikeouts, one in the first inning with the bases loaded in a situation that it's a 2-1 count at one point, and it just looks like he looks the whole way. And he's watching pitches go right down the middle, and you're supposed to be demonstrably better against lefties, and he doesn't come through. So while I do defend my take that Eguy and Grant Pauley should be playing third more than Tyler Wade. I feel like Billy Beane in Moneyball, where like the Pena guy, was it Carlos Pena, is like playing so much better, and he's the all-star or whatever, and then Billy Beane's like, no, I want Hatterberg at first. You know what I mean? I don't care how Pena is playing, like that thing. That's how I feel about Tyler Wade, kind of, if that makes any sense. The strikeout with the bases loaded was bad. 2-1 pitch, you just see one right down the middle. Other pitches he saw right down the middle, like just not good at bats, and I think that that's a problem. Especially if your specialty is lefty, so you got to show up here. The only defense for him is that the irregular playing time is tough. It is. But unlike with Luis Campusano, at least there's a reason, and the reason is that the righties have been killing you so far in your young career. But admittedly, inconsistent playing time is rough. And the last time that we were like, hey man, you got to show up and show us something, Luis Campusano was in a similar position. Now, different because of the platoon splits and all that stuff, but you know, he would get called up and pinch hit against Kenley and then have one good game that gets set back down. Like, they really deployed him poorly and never gave him any consistency. So that must be tough and frustrating. And in my opinion, especially in the case when the guys ahead of them are not necessarily like superstars. It's not like Machado is playing third base right now, and I'm yelling about how Eguy needs more playing time. That's not what's happening right now. It's Tyler Wade. So we'll see how that all pans out. And not to mention that I think Eguy Rosario can be a solid defender. We'll see how we'll see how that all plays out, though. We got to talk about a little bit more, ladies and gentlemen, especially Kyle. Oh, wow. What is wrong with me? The Kyle Higashioka game, because that is basically what happens here. here for the Padres, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, ladies and gentlemen. But first, I want to take a quick second. I am hiccuping in the middle of this podcast. That is not good. I want to take a quick second. Apologies if I hiccup during the middle of this ad read. My friends, we're talking about Prize Picks. And apologies to Prize Picks if I mess this up too. But Prize Picks, look, it's the #1 daily fantasy sports app in the country. It is fantastic with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. And you don't have to worry about betting against other gamblers or something else. It's just you against kind of the numbers. You pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and just watch those winnings roll in. Obviously, spring training is over and baseball season is underway, whether it's strikeouts, home runs, stolen bases, RBIs, first inning runs. You can do stuff like that on certain players. You can do that and get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. Hold on. I'm blanking. As you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason as well. Playoffs begin April 20th, and the play-in rounds, I should say, begin April 16th, 17th, and 19th, folks. It's really fantastic. And if you want to play against some pro people or just celebrities, Meek Mill and Sugar Sean O'Malley on there, you can check that under the Community Plays tab. So go check that out with Prize Picks, guys. It's really, really cool. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Locked On MLB, first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast. And we're vibing. We're thriving, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Kyle Higashioka. I saved the best for last. Basically, the winner of this game, not only does he hit the go-ahead home run to that beautiful, gorgeous construction building brick wall, what I will call the Olympus pillar. That's what it feels like whenever I see a home run hit there. It just looks like it's a beautiful, beautiful just layer of architecture. Am I stalling while my screen reloads so I can pick up some numbers? Yes, I am, 100%. Thank you very much. But in all seriousness, Kyle Higashioka hits the go-ahead home run in this game. Deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, this is your backup catcher, and what's funny, and I joked about this saying that Higashioka and Campusano, for some reason, are like the best players when it comes to, when it comes to producing the offense and performing above expectations. Look, this is just one of those things where the Higashioka acquisition was a little bit underrated, frankly. And by the way, this was not a fluky home run either. Like the Grant Pauldy one or some other folks that have hit a couple of like fluky hits. Like this one was smoked 103.9 miles per hour. I think it's the 6th hardest hit ball of the entire day. Higashioka was such a nice little pickup for this Padres team because the Padres have had some really poor backup catching performances, whether it be someone like Webster Rivas or it be someone like Victor Caratini. Now, don't get me wrong, Caratini has some really great moments by Puerto Rican brethren, right? But he wasn't really all that consistent. And with Higashioka, as someone who lives on the East Coast and hears a lot of Yankee fan talk, he did a pretty good job out there with New York. He's like kind of the ideal backup catcher. You know what I mean? He's actually had a couple like 1-win seasons, which is pretty solid for a catcher who doesn't hit all that well. Like 1.7 F4 last year. That's pretty dang good, considering he had an 86 WRC plus. Like, he's a good, solid game caller, and every now and then he could get you some hits. And he's had a couple clutch moments for the Yankees where he just contributes when you don't expect it. That was such a nice little acquisition from the what's it called? The Juan Soto trade. The Juan Soto trade that, like, it's like, okay, Campusano's the real catcher, but Salas isn't ready, so let's just have Higashioka be a really capable backup that will give you good called strikes, will give you a good defensive game, call good games, and even hit a little bit every now and then. So, shouts to Higashioka, who also throws out 2 runners in this game, by the way. I mean, just incredible stuff from our guy. Seriously, and it was all in the same inning, by the way, the Higashioka inning. Throwing out, who was it? Nolan Arenado, and then I think the inning after, does he throw out someone too? Or was it the inning before? It doesn't show on like the play-by-play like recap. Brendan Donovan was caught that inning after Paul Goldschmidt struck out, and then after the double, he then throws out Nolan Arenado. So just really, really good stuff from Higashioka, from stopping the bleeding for this team. So just winning the game for the team. Again, it is funny that the Padres, like, it doesn't feel like the players that have won them games so far have been the players you expect. Like, Tatis has been good and whatnot, but some empty Machado home runs to a degree. You know, maybe that one game against the Dodgers, though, not necessarily, because that kind of put it out of reach. That was good. But in terms of the rest, like, yeah, like Jerkson Profar has been coming up. Ha-Seong Kim has been solid so far. 2 strikeouts for him in this game, but he does get a stolen base. I did like the running aggressiveness from the Padres today. But guys like that, guys like Bogarts, you know, Machado, they haven't been super awesome so far. But again, it's just a few games, so I'm not freaking out. But in terms of driving in runners, the team needs to be more consistent. I will say, in terms of someone who didn't necessarily perform today, Jake Cronenworth, again, really unlucky in this game. And I think that that's worth talking about. On top of the fact that he's just, you know, trying to catch all these bad Xander Bogaerts throws, we had the double play ball from last night that we talked about that was just smoked. Expected batting average of 490. I believe it was like the second or third hardest hit ball of the entire night. Turns into a double play, and then the next inning, the Padres bullpen explodes. And it's like, if that goes through and they don't get unlucky, do they, you know, potentially score and put the game away? I really love, very early, and this would be my positive overreactions, how Cronenworth has been playing. He's been smacking the crap out of the ball. Like, he really has. And don't get me wrong, last year, I was a little bit like, oh, Grisham, like, he looks better. I like his patience at the plate. And then it ended up not working out. But with Cronenworth, at least with him, he's had more success. You know what I mean? Like, he's had actually, like, more success than Trent Grisham has overall. And he's been smoking it. And in this game, he gets unlucky again. Back-to-back nights. 105.9 miles per hour off the bat. A line-out with an expected batting average of 730. And then the third hardest hit ball of the entire night, also to Jake Cronenworth. Only Wilson Contreras hit the ball harder than him. 105.4 miles per hour off of the bat, exit velo. 480 expected batting average. Unfortunately, it's a ground out. Now, granted, the launch angle wasn't that great. It was a grounder. But even still, like, he's hitting the ball hard. That's 2 straight nights that he's been kind of robbed with that. So shouts to him doing that. I just think that means a lot for Jake. And again, he's been real. I'm impressed so far, and he's proven and he's stepped up. They gave him that third spot in the batting order. They didn't put him all the way down at the bottom. They said, we want you whenever we're facing lefties. We need to differentiate this lineup a bit, need to keep it mixed up, and he has performed, and he's been getting unlucky too with what I just said about this game and last night's game. So shouts to Jake Cronenworth. He deserves a lot of credit. I'm very impressed so far. Last thing, Wandy Peralta and Robert Suarez, just want to mention, they almost blow it, and it was like the old, you know how, like, if I've been joking on this pod as well as on Twitter that it feels like we keep having like the random reliever that just right when one other person gets out of their slump, someone else implodes. There was a little bit of a vibe of that. It was all over last year, right? Like, as soon as Nick Martinez calmed down, Luis Garcia would blow up. As soon as Luis Garcia calmed down, Tim Hill would blow up. As soon as Tim Hill calmed down, someone else would blow up, right? In this case, it's like, okay, it's not Cosgrove. Cosgrove getting some wicked strikeouts in this game, by the way. It's not Cosgrove who blew up last week. Instead, it's, my gosh, what happened? It's Wandy Peralta hitting 2 guys immediately. Now, I will say Wandy Peralta is like, there's some optimism around him, but it's not like he was incredible for the Yankees last year. He was better the year before that, so we'll see. I think that his stuff is better than some of the numbers portray, but we'll see on him. And then Robert Suarez, thankfully he works his way out of it despite the fact that they do get a sack run. And then Robert Suarez working. I mean, who else was nervous as heck watching that? I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Allows 2 walks, thankfully gets 2 strikeouts though, which was huge. But thankfully it was the bottom of the order, because otherwise maybe the Cardinals end up getting a go-ahead run that inning. And then even worse, maybe, even worse, seriously, like even worse, what if they go ahead and then the Padres are up and we're like, well, what has been the vibe with this team lately? I don't care who's batting, it just doesn't feel like you're going to hit the hit, so that's unfortunate. Shouts to the Cardinals, by the way, with some gamesmanship, walking Jackson Merrill and then facing Higashioka. I just thought that was such a, like, yeah, we know you hit the home run, we don't care though. Like, we don't think you can hit us. So shouts to the Cards. But yeah, so Robert Suarez shutting the door. Thankfully, there's a day off, so he'll be probably ready for Thursday if needed to go a little bit, if necessary. So that's great. So yeah, that's basically it though for today's episode, guys. Frankly, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Because I sure as heck did enjoy talking about it. The next series is against the Giants. Tomorrow's a day off. I don't know exactly what we're going to be talking about next frankly. I just didn't plan that far ahead, especially since it's another Giants series. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a crossover with somebody else. We'll have to see. But either way, just in terms of upcoming schedule, I'm excited to play someone that isn't the Giants. After this series against the Giants, this upcoming one, you get the Cubs, then you get the Dodgers, then you get the Brewers. So some interesting teams coming up for sure. Cubs should be fun, though. I'm kind of excited for that one. Although not excited for the Tuesday game. That's at 10:05 p.m. Not excited for that, for your boy on the East Coast to be watching the game at 10:05. But regardless, guys, that about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast. The only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, at @LO_Padres as well. I've been tweeting more from my personal account, Padres takes, and live tweeting the game, so keep an eye out for that. I might use my Padres account for like probing the audience and asking you guys questions and putting some fancy graphics and stuff like that. So expect a little bit of a change in the Twitter, and feel free to send me some questions right now in the description or DM on Twitter, whatever it is, for maybe to make even tomorrow's show, because I don't quite know yet what I'm going to talk about, but it'll be good. It'll be real good. Just trust me. But until that next time, stay safe, and of course, stay faithful, my fire faithful homies. Take care.